Hey guys, welcome to another speed build. I hope you're all having a wonderful day and happy Friday. And since it is Friday, that means we are doing another episode of building my subscribers' requests here in The Sims 4. This is episode 3 of the series, which is a rustic modern home for a single dad raising 2 kids. And this specific house was requested by Talaxon24, and I really hope that I am pronouncing that name right. If not, then I am so sorry. But Talaxon requested this house to be for a single dad raising 2 kids with a couple of guidelines to go by, which includes a teen son who has a game room, a toddler daughter who has a playroom, and an office for the dad. And I don't know if I said it, but they also wanted this build to be a rustic modern house. And I do have to say, this was quite the challenge for me. I do not think I have ever built a house like this. In particular, I've done like modern farmhouses once or twice in my life, but I have never done like a rustic modern build. So I'm not gonna lie, I actually had to Google it to see what it looked like. And I've seen several different inspiration pictures, a lot of which looked really good, but a little bit out of my expertise, and so this was the best I could find with what I could do. And I really hope you enjoy this build. I really hope it met your expectations, and thank you for requesting this build and giving me the inspiration to not only build this house for the single dad and his 2 kids, but also for inspiring me to go outside of my comfort zone and try something new, because I don't think I would have done a build like this otherwise. And that is one of the main reasons why I am having so much fun with this series. It's only episode 3, but I think it's going to stick around for quite some time because I am having so much fun seeing y'all's requests and seeing what you guys want me to build, and you guys making me go out of my comfort zone, because I definitely need that extra push, or else I will be doing suburban builds until the end of time. And so yeah, thank you once again for the inspiration for this build. I am so happy with the way it turned out, and like I said, I really hope you enjoy it as well. So I was not given a particular neighborhood to build this in, and so I went around the different neighborhoods we have available to us, and I was indecisive on if I wanted to build it in Gibby Point or if I wanted to do Chestnut Ridge. I feel like a build like this would look good in either location, but I ultimately ended up choosing Gibby Point because I haven't built here really since the pack came out, and it honestly is such a beautiful neighborhood. It is so pretty. I love like the mountains, and in this particular location, this lot right here, which you can see the name of it in the top left hand corner, and I believe it is a 40 by 30 lot if I'm not mistaken. It's quite big, and it actually has a townie family that lives here. I ended up just removing them. I kicked them out of their house and bulldozed it so I could build this build, because I felt like this lot was like perfect for what I wanted to do. And what really sold me was the fact that there's like a mountain range in the backyard. Not the backyard, but in the back of the house, there's the mountain range, and there's actually a road back there that cars drive. And I didn't really notice that before. I don't think I've ever actually came to this lot and actually looked at this lot until I built this build. And I'm happy that I did, because I had no idea that it had like a literal road on the side of the mountain in the back. And I just love that detail. It really makes you feel like you're in the mountains when you see that. And I absolutely love that. So this, I think, is one of my new favorite lots in the game, and definitely in Gibby Point. Like, I absolutely love this lot. It is a big lot, and having the bigger lots just means it's going to be a little bit of a longer video. As you guys could probably tell, it's almost an hour long, which I don't love to do such long videos. I feel like you guys prefer like around 30 minutes or so, but sometimes you just have to do the longer builds, or else I'll have to cut out a lot. But I really wanted you guys to see the build process on this house because I went back and forth quite a bit. And to be honest, I did cut a lot out. And this took me a while. This took me at least probably like 6 to 8 hours total. And so it was a big build and just not something I've ever done before. And so I did a lot of trial and error to get to the final product, but I'm definitely happy I stuck it out because I think it turned out really, really good. So it was definitely worth it at the end. So at this point, we have a really good start on the outside of the build, and it doesn't all really come together until the very end when I add like all of the landscaping. I'll add the hedgerow bushes here in just a moment because that's what I usually do. Once I get the exterior done, I like to add the bushes onto the house just to give it that landscaping detail, because sometimes houses look a little bit plain until you get the landscaping on, or at least the hedgerow bushes, so that you can kind of see where it's headed. So the inspiration photo that I looked at on this particular house, I got the main part of the house to look pretty similar to the inspiration photo. Obviously, it's not exact because it's hard to make it exact in The Sims, but it's pretty close. However, it didn't have this little carport area that I added. I just came up with that myself. I thought it needed something on the end of the house right there. It was looking a little bit bland, and it really didn't need any more house extended on there. I felt like this was big enough, you know? Compared to the lot, it might not look that big, but trust me, it is. It's a 40 by 30 lot, at least. I don't think it's 50 by 40. I'm pretty sure it's 30 by 40 by 30, 30 by 40, something like that. It's definitely not 30 by 20 and definitely not 20 by 15. And so it might look a little small compared to the lot size, but trust me, it's not. If I'm able to fit 3 bedrooms plus 3 additional rooms plus 3 bathrooms plus a living room, dining room, and kitchen, yeah, there's definitely plenty of space in here. But yeah, I really thought it needed something on the corner of the lot, on the edge of the house, and I was indecisive on how I wanted to do a garage. The garage is what I thought of, but I didn't really think of a carport. And I don't do carports very often. But I was kind of playing around with a few different ideas. And once I put the carport down, I knew that was what the missing piece was. And I ended up adding like an additional walkway heading to the house from the carport. I feel like that's what you would see in real life, just to block you from the rain when you're walking from your car to the house. And I also end up adding like a little side door right there. And that side door just leads into the kitchen and dining room area. And then on the main carport, I actually decided to cut out the middle piece and put a glass roof there. I felt like having just strict wood and like the carport just plain, it just didn't look right to me. It looked like there was something missing. I don't know how to explain it, but I ended up cutting out the middle and putting a glass roof there, and I'm glad that I did because I think that made it just look so much better. It definitely put it to the next level, if that makes sense. It looked so good once I added the glass roof. And I also got distracted for a minute because I noticed that I forgot to paint part of the carport, and so yeah, I'm gonna have to make a mental note of that. If you notice that, don't worry, I am going to make sure I paint that before I post it onto the gallery. If for any reason I forget, I am sorry. Luckily that's easy for you guys to do though. You can just grab the little water droplet tool that like copies whatever you're trying to copy, and you can just paint it yourself. It's fine. But I'll try to remember. So now that we have a great head start on the outside of our build and I have like an image in my mind of where I'm headed with it, I wanted to go ahead and get inside and go ahead and do the floor plan and get all of the furniture in its place. Let's just get this out of the way now. I do end up changing those sofas, and I also was very indecisive on the color scheme I wanted to do on the inside. At first I went with this black flooring, and I'm so glad that I ended up deleting that because it was a little bit too much black at that point. I like black when it comes to like detailing and pops of black, but not when it's just black altogether. That it's just a little bit too much at that point, especially for a build like this. I do end up painting the walls like a white wood at some point, and then I will detail like pop out wall areas in each room with the stone that you see on the outside of the house. And then the flooring, I stick with this wood. You'll see me change it to gray for a little bit, and the gray looked fine. The only thing is that the gray was way too close to the white wood on the walls. And so it just looked a little bit too samey to me. And that is ultimately why I end up going with this light wood on the floor instead. It just made it look more detailed, I guess. And it definitely looked a lot more rustic and not too modern. Like, I wanted a healthy in between. I definitely found it easy to go more in one direction over the other while building this build. Like, I kept wanting to go more modern or more rustic, and I kept having to remind myself, like, no, it needs to be in between. You need to find that healthy in between, one way or another. And I think I did a good job figuring it out finally. And I also kept in mind that this is a build for a single dad. And so I didn't want to make it too decorated on the inside, if that makes sense. Like, I know men, they can decorate too, okay? I get it. But men definitely have a different style than women, and I tried to keep it on the masculine side. And so this rug that I'm using, I do end up keeping this rug in this particular swatch, if I'm not mistaken, because it definitely looks like a rug like a man would have, especially in like a modern rustic build. The colors definitely remind me of like camouflage, but it's like a little bit more modern. I don't know, but I thought it made sense. It's actually from the industrial loft kit, and I end up swapping these couches out for the couches you find in the industrial loft kit. And I did the industrial loft bed in the dad's room. So I came to realize I went with that kit quite a bit in this build, which I know sounds like an interesting choice, but I feel like the style of rustic modern I went with in this build almost went with the industrial loft kit really, really well. I feel like those styles kind of match each other. Sort of. Not exactly, obviously. Especially as far as the build itself goes, but like the furniture definitely resembles each other. At least in my mind, what I imagine a modern rustic build to look like. Now keep in mind, I don't do rustic builds and I don't do modern builds, so take that with a grain of salt, I guess. So the living room is not done by any means. I do end up going in there and changing it quite a bit, but I wanted to get over into the kitchen and get the placeholder furniture in here just so I can get a good image of what the rest of the house is gonna look like. And then the dining room is in that room right in between the kitchen and living room. On a side note, I currently have my cat harassing me trying to get in my office because she knows how to open doors, because she's too smart for her own good. And so if you hear anything in the background, that is literally my cat jumping to open the door, but I have it locked because she's trying to get in my office and play with my freezer bunny stuffed animal that I have, and she's just not going to be able to do that. And so she's in timeout outside of my office. And so yeah, my apologies on that. I have those doorknobs that are like not knobs, not like round knobs. They're like the long knobs that you just like grab and pull down. And so she learned when she was very, very small. I lived in an apartment with the same kind of doorknobs. And back then she learned that she can jump up and open the door by jumping on the doorknobs and pulling it down. And so she has remembered that this whole time. And that was like 7-8 years ago. And for the longest time, we lived in a house that had like round knobs, so she couldn't do it. Well, until we got this house recently, and we have these knobs, and she remembered because she's smart. And so, yeah. I just wanted to let you guys know about that. I think it's funny. I think it's super cute. And I think it's super cool that I have a cat that knows how to open doors, but it is also very annoying. But I've got the counters and the fridge and stove and everything in the kitchen where I want it to be. I have an island in the very center with some stools there, and I do have an additional stovetop on the island, and then I have an additional oven stove combo on the wall. I just really wanted to put something on the island. I guess I could have left it blank, but I felt like it looked really cool to have that additional stove there. I also could have put the sink there, but I wanted the sink to overlook the backyard even more, right where those windows were. We had such a beautiful trio of windows right there in the kitchen. It just called to have the sink there. And so I ultimately decided just to put the stove there on top of the island, and I just thought it looked really, really nice. Obviously, you can remove that if you don't like it there, and you can just have a blank island, but I thought it was a nice addition, and it's super nice to have like that additional stove there, and you can choose to like entertain guests while you're cooking on the stove or something. I don't know. I just thought it was cool. So before I started even building this build, one thing I knew I wanted to have inside of this rustic modern house was like a really big and grand entryway. I just felt like that is something you would see in a rustic modern build, and I never really get to do these really big open living rooms like this with like a huge chandelier on top of the ceiling and like extra railings on top of the ceiling also, to make it look like more rustic, almost give like a barn look, but it's not a barn. Kind of exactly what I have here. Exactly what I have here. I got 2 staircases on both sides leading up to the second story, and I have the second story very, very open with additional rooms all around the open hallway that's there. And then I have the big chandelier and additional railings on top of the ceiling. I have the big stone wall right where the front door is and those really big windows. And I just am in love with the way that this living room turned out. One thing that I wanted to do as I was building this, I noticed that the fireplace was like kind of like open, like there's an additional top on the fireplace. And I thought to myself, I need to remember to go back and add some sort of decoration on top of the fireplace. Well, guess what? I forgot to do that. So that is killing me right now that I forgot to do that. But I mean, it's fine. At the end of the day, you really didn't need the extra decorations. And like I said earlier, this is a single dad's house, so it probably makes sense that there is no decoration up there. I also love the fact that the fireplace is in between the 2 staircases in the house too. I just absolutely love the way the living room came out, and it's not even done yet. It turns out so much better than where I left it at right now. Since this build gave me such a hard time, I went back and forth quite a bit in this build, a lot more than normal for me. I normally go back and forth between inside and outside to work on different areas of the house, but this build was definitely more extreme, just because I would get stuck on a certain thing and didn't know what to do. I would move to a different area, and so we're back outside, and I am going ahead and adding the pool. And I knew I wanted a pool once I knew how big of a lot we had and the fact that I was doing a rustic modern build. I knew I had to have a pool, and we're in Gibby Point, so of course I have to add a diving board as well as a water slide. And I really, really wanted to go back and add a couple of pool floaties inside of the pool too, but I forgot to do that. But luckily that's easy for you guys to add if you want that in your gameplay. It's so easy to go into build buy mode and buy some pool floaties, and this way you can choose which kind you have and which kind you don't. For some reason I feel like the pepperoni pizza or any of the pizza swatches of the pool floaty would have been perfect for this build. I love that pool floaty. I think it is so stinking cute, especially for like family builds. So a few weeks ago I did a modern farmhouse build, and I made a sidewalk leading from the front sidewalk leading up to the front of the house to the driveway, and I did it how I did this one, where it had like gaps in between each one, and I did like rectangles for the actual like pavements. I just love to do that for like modern builds. It just makes it look very, very modern. But I ended up deleting it, and I realized once I went back to do the voiceover that I really honestly should have left it because it looked really, really good. So that was another thing I knew I wanted to do on this build, was include that additional like pavement area that had like gaps in between it. I think it just looks really, really good. It looks super modern. And so I have it leading from the front sidewalk leading to the front door over to the driveway, and from the driveway leading to the backyard, and ultimately leading to like the pool area. And I just really, really love the detail that that gives. And at the end of the build, when I do the terrain paint, I do end up adding like additional terrain paint around the pavement to make it look like it's actually like on the ground and it's been there for a minute and that people actually walk on it. I really, really love terrain paint in The Sims 4 and The Sims in general. I find the terrain paint in The Sims 4 to be so much easier than The Sims 2 or 3 though. Well, honestly, I don't really know about 3 because I don't build in 3. I don't think I've ever built a house in The Sims 3, to be totally honest. But I have in The Sims 2, and the terrain paint in The Sims 2 is so difficult because there's not different levels of terrain paint. And so you can't just like barely click it on there. Once you click it, it's like, it's a deep opacity terrain paint. You cannot change the opacity. And so I love here in The Sims 4 the different settings that they give you to really be able to customize it, and it just really honestly brings a build to life. I have said that quite a bit before on my channel, but it really does. If you do not put terrain paint on a build, you can tell. It just makes it look not as realistic, and things are just placed on there, and it just looks a little bit too clean, I guess. And the terrain paint gives the depth that a build really, really needs. And even doing just like a very, very light coat of terrain paint is better than leaving it out altogether. But we're back inside, and I'm actually going to finish the inside this time before heading back outside. So you don't have to worry about me going back outside anytime soon, I don't believe. But I am in the living room, and I ended up changing those couches out to these couches from the industrial loft kit, kind of like what I was talking about earlier. I don't think I've ever used these couches just because I don't do builds that really involves this style. And so I wanted to take advantage of using these couches. Once I realized they did in fact exist, and I came across them when looking through the catalog for this build, I'm like, oh my god, I have to use these. Especially for a single dad, I just feel like those couches are it for sure. And I do have additional pillows on there. Whether a single dad would put pillows on a couch is up for debate, but I figured maybe they just came with the couch, and so he just sort of left them on there. And it has an additional blanket on the back of the couch, and I love that detail. It makes it look like, you know, it's just there ready for one of the Sims to grab to snuggle up on the couch and watch TV. And I ended up deleting the walls behind the fireplace to be able to freely place that TV on there. And it is so worth that extra work to do that, or else it's just like a blank fireplace. The Sims team, they really honestly should have made it a clippable spot on there where you could just place a TV or a picture on that fireplace, because it's so blank, if not, like it's just stone. And it desperately needs some sort of detail. So it's a little bit finicky, and if I am being totally honest, it is a little bit annoying to have to like delete the walls and freely place something, but it's definitely worth the extra effort, for sure. I also just have to, and I mean have to, put a TV in the living room, or else it's missing something in my opinion. Like, what living room doesn't have a TV unless you have an additional like entertainment room? then I can understand if like a fancy living room just for show, it has no TV because nobody's in there sort of thing, and then you have an additional family room or entertainment room where the TV and stuff is. I get that, but if you have just one like living room like this house, it has to have a TV. No discussion. Like, nothing's up for debate there. And other than that, as far as the living room goes, I also have like a huge coffee table in between the sofas, and I have like a bookcase in there, a couple of decorations around, not too much. And that's about it. I kept it relatively simple in the living room. I almost said blank or bland, but it's really not. I think the stone and all the detailing in the architecture of the living room gave it enough detail that it needed. And since I was keeping it more on the masculine side, I didn't want to overdo the decorations. So I think it turned out exactly how I was imagining it would turn out. And so I hope you guys like the living room. I definitely love it. When you look at it from the second story, it just looks so satisfying to me. I do have screenshots at the end to really showcase it, so definitely stay tuned for those if you're curious. Right now, we're working in the kitchen. So I got the dining room done. The dining room, I ended up using the table from Horse Ranch. I absolutely love that table. The swatches are a little questionable. I wish that there were better like tablecloth patterns. I don't love the patterns of the tablecloth, or the table runner, should I say, if I'm being totally honest. I ended up choosing this one. I felt like it was perfect for a single dad's house. It's very like masculine. It has the black table, and the table runner on the top is just like striped. And I did put a plant on top of the table, okay? I just had to put something. I did not want to leave it blank, or else it just was missing something. I had to put something on top of the table. And so I chose the plant that I usually always put on the dining table. It's from Growing Together. I absolutely love that plant for the dining table. I think it is so pretty. And then I also added that hutch from Cats and Dogs behind the table. And I forgot to put something on the center of the hutch. There's like a gap where you could place something there. It's like the literal perfect spot to be able to put that memorial picture from Life and Death. And I would have done that for like a memorial of the mom. Maybe the mom passed away. I'm not really sure why the dad is single. Maybe the mom passed away. And if she did, if there's a memorial picture, it would be perfect for that space right there. And then on the other side of the table, I added the small hutches from Seasons that have like little plates and cups in the center of it. And I placed two of those side by side with some decorations on top, like a fruit bowl and one of those digital picture frames, and then like a lamp. And right in front of that window, I didn't want to cover the window up too much. And so I just put a couple of ottomans there with some curtains. And I also included a high chair because we have a toddler in the house. Toddlers don't necessarily need the high chair, but just in case you guys like to put your toddler in the high chair, I went ahead and included it in the dining room. And the kitchen came together very quickly too. I already had the whole like setup of the kitchen done, but I included some decorations on top of the counter, and I kept it simple in there too. I did a lot of like functional items. I have a microwave. I also have a little like coffee bar area that is right by the side door. There's two counters right next to each other that I thought was perfect for a little coffee bar area. And so that's what I did there. And then I have a pizza oven. I have a microwave question mark. I think I said that already. And then I have a grocery bag, which is clipped onto the counter, by the way. So you're actually able to use it to order groceries. And then same with the cookie jar that's by the coffee area. I clipped that onto the counter, so you should be able to use that as well. And that's really all there is to note about the kitchen. I absolutely love the way the kitchen turned out, and I love the lamps that I chose above the islands. I wanted it to look very rustic modern, and the pictures I was looking at online had lamps that looked pretty similar to what I choose in there, and same with the counters themselves. I seen a lot of like white cabinets with the black countertops, And so I immediately thought of these counters from Parenthood because I knew they had a swatch just like that. And they almost look a little bit rustic, farmhousey on the bottom as well. And then the white and the black makes it look modern. But we are working on the very first guideline that I was given, and this is the game room for the teen son. And it's very, very green in here because I put a lava lamp. And since it's a game room, I feel like there would be some sort of like, not necessarily black light, but some sort of colored light giving off a certain ambiance in here. And I chose green. I don't know why, I just did. I felt like lime green and black just made sense. I really like that color combination. And it was very, very green there for a minute, but I did lay off the green just a tad little bit. So it's a very light ambiance of the lime green, but just enough to know that it's there. As far as the features go in here, I have a computer, and then I also put one of those streaming cameras from Get Famous that just like hovers over your sim as they stream. You can also stream from the computer if you have the streaming part-time career. That came with high school years, so you could do either one. And I also included a big flat screen TV with a console gaming system, and then a couple of like controllers from the Comfy Gamer Kit just to decorate it a little bit. And I included that blow up love seed that we recently got with that quest from the base game. It was like for like the early 2000s or something. It was like Blast from the Past or something like that. And I have been trying to find an excuse to use that love seat for the longest time, like ever since it came out. I don't think I've ever used it. I think I have wanted to several times, but I don't think I have yet. And so when I came across it while building this, and I was in the game room actually when I came across it, I was like, oh my god, it's perfect. I can finally use it. I almost chose the lime green swatch, but it was a little bit much. It was very, very bright. So I ended up choosing the gray swatch. I felt like that was very much teen boy coded. Like I feel like a teen boy would choose the gray one for sure. But then I included some like lime green pillows just so that there would be some lime green detail without it being a little bit too much. And then we have the lava lamp right next to it that's lime green. And I also chose the gaming system, the console from City Living, I think is where that came from. And I chose the lime green one with the black edges. I mean, that was just too perfect not to use. Next to that sofa in the gaming room, I put a couple of like sodas or energy drinks there, and that will spoil, by the way. I've come to realize that they will spoil, but I really like the detail that it gives, and so I included it there. I wish that they would add some just for decoration that wouldn't spoil so that I could add it without having to feel bad about it going bad and you guys having to throw it away. Oh, I forgot. I put the lava lamp actually on the computer desk, and then that table next to the love seat, I ended up putting that lamp that's like a UFO abducting something, and I think I chose the alien swatch just because it matched the best, and I absolutely love that lamp. I want one in real life. I think I said that a couple builds ago, but I really, really do. But to get a good quality one, come to realize they're not cheap. I thought they were, but they're not. And it's not exactly how I want it. I want there to be like Bella Goth or a Freezer Bunny or something that is from The Sims to be abducted, not just like a cow. Usually it's a cow, and well, that's kind of boring. I want something to be obviously from The Sims in there. But that's pretty much it for the game room. I really wanted to put one of those super big, old school gaming systems in there that like you press the buttons and you can have 4 Sims at a time playing on there, but that was just way too big to fit in there, so it just wasn't happening. But that's kind of unfortunate. But other than that, I'm quite happy with the way that the game room turned out. It looks very realistic to a teen boy, and that is what I was going for after all. As far as his bedroom's like right next to it. It's just a bedroom. I mean, it has his bed and a dresser in there. I also included an additional desk, and I was thinking that is where he could do like his homework and stuff, and not necessarily where a computer would be. His computer is in the game room. That desk is just for like his homework and stuff. And to be quite honest, I just needed something to put there. That's all I could think of. That wasn't a game. So we are working on the downstairs bathroom now. And earlier in the build, I said that there's 3 bathrooms. Well, in fact, one of the bathrooms is a laundry room. So there's really only 2 bathrooms plus a laundry room, but same thing, right? But this bathroom, I wanted it to have some details that like kids use it, or at least the teen uses it. And once the toddler ages up, she'll use that bathroom too. I do end up putting a toddler potty in there, and same with Dad's bathroom upstairs. The upstairs bathroom is just strictly for the master bedroom, and then this is like the main bathroom that everybody else is going to use. But just to give it a little bit of detail that the teen is in there and he uses that bathroom, I put that little like cup of water with a retainer in it on top of the sink next to the toothbrush, and I thought that was like the perfect detail to tell the story that that's the teen's room or the teen's bathroom. And I just think that is so cute. It came from one of the kits. I think the bathroom clutter kit, or just like the everyday clutter kit. It also has a swatch that has dentures in there, and I like to put that in my elders' bathrooms. I just love that. I think it is so cute. I mean, cute in The Sims, not necessarily something I would like to see in real life. I don't want to see your dentures in a jar, okay? I just don't. Or your retainer, for that matter. But we are starting on the next guideline for the build, and that is the playroom for the toddler. And I had a little bit of a hard time making this playroom cute, but I think I got it at the end of the day. I just needed to use some platforms. And I'm happy that I did, because it definitely broke up the different sections a little bit. I have that huge tent from Dream Home Decorator. I absolutely love this tent. I think it's so cute, and it's gonna be perfect for when the toddler ages up to a child too. Like, this can stay the playroom for sure. And then you can just add some additional child skill building items in here, and then it would be like perfect. But I knew I wanted to add this Dream Home Decorator tent because of how large the playroom is. It definitely needed something to fill up a lot of space, and that tent is definitely the thing to do that. I never get to use this tent because of how big it is, but for something as large as this room, it was just perfect. And then I have like an additional toy box right next to it. I also really like adding some additional items inside of the tent just to decorate it up a little bit to make it look like it's obviously being played in. And your toddler should still be able to play in that tent, hopefully. If not, I'm sorry. You'll just have to delete some items. But I've done this before, and my child and toddler was able to play in that tent, so it should be fine. And of course, I chose the swatch that had like the farm on it. I thought that was perfect for a rustic modern build. I mean, it's more rustic than modern, but hey, you can have both modern and rustic things in this build, hence the name. And I just think it's cute. It's the best swatch out of the 4 that they gave you. I really wish they would have given you more, but you know what? Whatever, it's fine. Can't get everything, I guess. And I also included that bookcase from Enchanted by Nature. It is like a tree, it looks like. It's from like a fairy tale storybook sort of thing. It's super, super cute. I love it. And I don't get to use it very often, so I was happy that I used it in this build. And then I added like a teddy bear chair next to it, a little like void critter poof that's from Snowy Escape, and on top of that poof, I added a little imaginary friend doll, and I have that dollhouse that is designed to look like a barn, and of course I chose the pink swatch. This whole playroom definitely screams girl, and that was the goal at the end of the day, because it is for a little girl, so I wanted it to be very pink. And then I just put like a little well, not little, one of the large stuffed animals. I chose the dog because the dog's so cute. It was either that or the cat, but in this case, I chose the dog because it had that little scarf that was pink, and so it was perfect. And I know that door leading out to the back porch isn't the smartest thing to put in a toddler's playroom, guys. I get it. But I added it before I really realized that was going to be the playroom, and I just loved the way it looked. And I really wanted to add one on the second story too, but that was the toddler's bedroom, and I felt like that was going a little bit too far. And so I did leave it on the playroom, left it off of the bedroom, so I mean, it's fine. If it bothers you that much, you could totally delete it, but I feel like in The Sims, it's fine. It's really not that big of a deal. It would be worse in real life for sure. I would never have my toddler's room or the playroom or anything that has to do with my kids having a back door leading to outside straight from their bedroom at all. But that pretty much concludes the house on the first story, and we are now on the second story, starting on the dad's room. And I kept dad's room relatively simple. I would have added a TV in here, but we had so many windows that it just didn't fit. And so I just have like a bed with some end tables, and that is the industrial loft kit bed, by the way, which I don't use ever, but I do really like it. And it was perfect for this house, especially for like a man's room. It just screams man to me. I don't know. And I have a radio. I wanted some sort of entertainment item in here that he could just come in here and relax if he needed to get away from like his kids or something. And so we have a radio and then a dresser, and that's pretty much it for his room. I think it turned out really, really nice though. For how simple it is, very nice. And we are now working on the master bathroom. So I do have a toddler potty in here. I wanted to put some toddler potty somewhere upstairs, and I really don't like to add it in the toddlers' rooms. I just don't like the thought of that, to be honest. I mean, I guess you could in The Sims. You won't have a mess like you would in real life, but I like to keep it in the bathrooms. It just makes more sense to me. And since we don't have a spare bathroom up here, I had to put it in the master. I don't think her dad would mind. And then we have just like a single standalone shower, and then I put a divider there. I couldn't really do what I usually do with the whole like platform leading down into the shower and the curtains and stuff because I had that window there and it was in the way. Come to think of it now, I could have moved the window for sure, but I didn't think of it then, so it is what it is. And that is pretty much it for the master bathroom. The master bathroom is simple. I guess I don't love the way the master bathroom came out, but it's not terrible at the same time. And that single robe in there drove me crazy for some reason, but I had to tell the story of it being a single dad, and so it has just the single robe. We are now working on the final guideline for the build, and that is the office for the dad. So the dad's office is small. It's smaller than the game room and the toddler's playroom. The toddler lucked out. The toddler's got the biggest room for her playroom, but I knew the objects I used for the toddler was gonna be large, so that's just how it worked out. And I could just see that little girl being dad's like little princess, so it kind of makes sense. So dad's office is very simple too. It's very small, and so I could only put a few things in there. So I have a computer desk with the computer, obviously. I did put a landline phone there. It's not functional, obviously. He's still gonna have to use his cell phone, but I really liked the look of the landline. And it looks like it's for his work, like he uses it to work in during the day. Maybe he works from home a lot, he doesn't have a babysitter, so he has to work from home, or he just has a job working from home, maybe he's a writer, whatever the case may be. I felt like it made sense to put a landline in there. And this is the first time I actually added a landline in a build, if I'm not mistaken, and I've been wanting to do it ever since it came out. That was another item from a Blast from the Past quest, I think. And so I've just wanted to use it for the longest time, and I finally was able to. And then I also put like a book with like a pen, and it's open. It looks like it's being written in. Maybe he's writing notes for work. And then I have a bookcase behind there, and a plant, and that's really it for his office. I really would have liked to have put like a treadmill or maybe some weightlifting things in there, but it didn't fit. You could totally remove the bookcase though, because we have plenty of bookcases everywhere else in the build that we really didn't need one in his office. It just looked better than like a treadmill would. And then the toddler's room is very simple too. All of the bedrooms I tried to keep strictly for them to like sleep in, and then they have maybe a dresser and maybe one item for entertainment in there. Not necessarily the toddler, unless I put some extra blocks. I can't quite remember. But like the teen, he has his desk for like schoolwork, and then the dad, he has a radio. The toddler, I think I did end up putting some blocks or something in there. Other than that, it's really just strictly for sleeping. So she has her bed and a couple of nightstands with some lamps on there. And she has her little changing table. And then I also found that rocking chair from Horse Ranch that has a pink swatch and it has like a little star on there. I thought that was too cute not to put in the toddler's room. Maybe the dad can just sit there and rock and hang out. Maybe he's rocking her to sleep or whatever the case may be. I just thought it was cute. And I also put that cow print rug in there that has the pink and white swatch. That was way too good not to put in there. I found that early on in the build and I knew I just had to put it in there. And then in the hallway, I really just put some decorations. I put some books on top of like a hall table right in between the wall and the fence. And you're probably not going to be able to get there, but we have so many other bookcases in the build that it didn't really matter. It's really just there for show. I had to put something so it wasn't blank, and that's what I thought of. And I also put like an ottoman underneath the window because it was cute. We do have a chess table in this house. It's downstairs in that hallway right next to the back sliding door before you get to the back porch. So we do have some sort of logic skill building item in this build. And then other than that, that's pretty much it for the inside of the build, and we are now finishing up the exterior. And I do have benches pretty much on both the porch and the balcony in the back. That is the best I could come up with. At this point in the build, it took so long to get to this point, I was pretty much just ready to finish it up. And I also just think that looks the best other than putting anything else out there. So we are working on the patio right next to the pool, and I have a grill with a couple of tables next to each side. On one of the sides I put a cooler. You're not going to be able to actually use the cooler because I have it raised up to be on the table, but it's really just for show. I thought it was so cute. And I could totally see the dad having a cooler there. That's like such a dad thing to do, is to have a cooler. My husband, we don't have kids at the moment, but he is such a cooler person. Like he always has a cooler. Every time we leave the house, even to go to like the store, he will fill up his like little portable cooler with drinks, maybe some snacks if it's gonna be that long, and bring it with us. He's like, you never know what can happen. I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad you're thinking that far ahead. If it wasn't for him, I would be stranded on the side of the road with nothing and just be thirsty. And so I'm glad he thinks like that. And then in front of the grill, we have a little like picnic bench with an umbrella on it. And right next to that, I have an additional little like pool where the toddler can go in there. And I thought that was a good little touch for the toddler. And I thought it was super cute there too. As for the other features in the backyard, we have a little bit of a modular playground, nothing too crazy. And then I have a couple of swing sets there. I know the swing sets won't be used probably until the toddler ages up, but the toddler will be aging up probably not long from now. And so when she does, she has a couple of swing sets there. And I have been dying to do 2 swing sets right next to each other, and I finally was able to fit it in this build. And then I also put a couple of kayaks. I figured we're in Gibby Point, and so this is such an outdoorsy town, and I could just see this family being very outdoorsy. I really wanted to add a couple of kayaks somewhere, so I put it off to the side right next to that tree in the backyard. And one last thing I almost forgot to mention, right by the carport, I have a couple of outdoor trash cans right there. I figured that was the perfect place to put the outdoor trash can. And you're probably wondering, like, I thought this was a single dad's house. Why is there two cars? And that is because I figured one of the cars is probably for the teenager. And honestly, since it's such a long driveway, having just one car looked a little bit weird to me, so I really wanted to add a second one. And on that note, we have officially reached the end of our build for today. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's build. It was definitely different than what I have done before, so it was very much out of my comfort zone. Of course, if you did enjoy today's build, please do not forget to leave a like and also subscribe if you have not already. And don't forget to leave your requests for a build down in the comments below. It may be included in a future episode of this series. A big thank you once again to mtalaxon24 for inspiring today's build. I appreciate it so much. I had so much fun building it, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you all have an amazing weekend, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one very soon. Bye guys!